Hello, Buckeyes. This is the Carmen, Buckeye, Ohio. Carmen, Ohio, Buckeye. I said my own name wrong. Maybe I'm a little nervous. I don't do this often. I did it a little bit last year. Obviously, after the Michigan game happened last year, I didn't come back, but it wasn't completely to do with the game. I've been dealing with my mom being in and out of the hospital, so I haven't had time for this. And I apologize also. I'm trying to get green screen to work. I know a lot of people do it perfectly. You can see our 8 official national championships behind me there. So I really like that. I could probably change that up from time to time. But maybe if I have some sort of like technical genius that wants to help me figure out how to fix this, I'm new to this, so bear with me, okay? So, you know, you can see me grow maybe in technology, and maybe my channel will grow along with it. So on YouTube, I call myself Madamus Prime Entertainment, and on Twitch, I call myself Buckeye Anon. This I am considering a entertainment channel, not just sports, not just gaming, not just movies, all of the above, maybe more, maybe music. I don't know. We'll see whatever I feel like discussing for the day. But today is a great day, Buckeye Nation. Why is that? It's game week. Hey, it's game week. Anybody as excited as I am? I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm pumped. Now, we're only playing Akron, but when it's game one, who cares, right? You're just excited to see your team take the field, especially after how last season ended. Now, when you're a fan of a team, things don't always go your way, especially at the end of the season as the competition gets harder and harder. So last season didn't go our way. And you know what? People can trash talk all they want. Ohio State did come just 1 or 2 plays away from making the playoffs last year and being undefeated. And that's where you want to be. Now, mind you, Kyle McCord was not a typical Ryan Day quarterback. Probably more similar to Jim Tressel style, Woody Hayes, old style that really needs the run game to complement his play. And if we had proper run game technique last season, we might have seen different results. So if I have one criticism of Ryan Day, it's his inability to understand the run game. He doesn't understand it. And that's, when you bring in a coach that doesn't have coaching experience, you run into this. You run into some sort of area of weakness that the coach needs to shift and change to make work. Now, our run game wasn't completely shut down or anything. If you just look at the stats that we had as far as our run game goes, you'll see that it wasn't completely dead. Trayvon Henderson was at about 926 yards. He was the leader. We didn't have 1,000-yard runner, and that's what's really the most annoying. If we would have had good blocking techniques and scheme, I think we would have had he probably would have been more of a 1,500-yard runner. Last season was the healthiest he had been. He still had moments where he couldn't come in. So, we got to keep him with fresh legs, and I think we found a nice solution to that. But 156 carries, 926 yards. The rest of our running back production will not be playing from last season. Majority of it left, and some of it's inexperienced. So we brought in Quinshawn Judkins to kind of complement our running game and maybe fill in case he does get hurt or one of them does get hurt. Quinshawn Judkins played for Ole Miss, and he had 271 carries, 1,158 yards last season, which is a step down from the 1,500 plus he had the season before. Quinshawn had 15 touchdowns. His longest run was 50 yards. He is a 4.3 average, which is right around where you want to be. Though, with our offensive line, I do think he can actually average more. His touchdowns numbers, as far as like receptions, also he only had 2 touchdown receptions. So maybe there's some potential there to utilize him also in the passing game. So we'll see what Chip Kelly wants to do. And speaking of Chip Kelly, what a great hire. I mean, the man has head coaching experience. He can actually teach Ryan Day some things. He has play calling experience, which is something we lacked last season. And he comes in with a philosophy. It's similar to Ryan Day, but Ryan Day learned his philosophy from Chip Kelly. As everybody knows, Ryan Day was a quarterback, which, if you think about it with his history, it does kind of make sense that he didn't know the running game all that well. So Chip Kelly should be able to help him with that. If our spring game's any indication, I saw a lot of flexibility. Like, when I say that, I mean there was options. There was, quarterback options, not just in the passing game but the running game as well. And we saw the quarterback do a lot more, and it was a lot more effective on our defense. So when it comes to our offense, I do expect a huge increase in numbers. If you look at the 2023 season, you'll find out that our offense was ranked 48th in the country, which is a huge shift from Ryan Day's typical top 10 and even top 5 offense that we had in previous seasons. Under C.J. Stroud, I believe we were the number 2 offense, maybe number 3, right behind Georgia. But I mean, our total yardage output, was 5,303 yards for the season. Which when you look at that, it doesn't sound bad. But there are some offenses producing upwards of 7,000 yards. That was LSU. We have too much talent to not be competing for the top spot in the nation. And if Will Howard is as effective as we are seeing and hearing about, I think that we will be competing for the top offense in the country. And I mean, that's a huge increase from number 48. But the other thing you have to look at is how imbalanced our run and pass was. Running yards, we have 1,805 yards all season. That's just not Ohio State football. Anybody that knows the history like I do, that's not Ohio State football. Ohio State was a run-heavy team before, and I'm not saying we need to switch back, to old, Jim Tressel ball. Tressel ball, I love Jim Tressel, okay? Jim Tressel is an awesome guy. If you anybody who tunes into Buckeye Scoop, there was actually an interview with Troy Smith and Jim Tressel at the same time. I do recommend going back and watching that. Two of my favorite people in history, man. Jim Tressel was a great guy, but Tressel ball did drive me crazy a bit. But hey, it did win us a championship. But we had 3,498 total pass yards last season. For everything that you say about Kyle McCord was the number 1 quarterback in the Big Ten. And, Big Ten is a run-heavy league, okay? It's a physical, very tough, physically kind of league. And so the passing numbers aren't going to be the highest in the nation. But also, you got to look at the fact that we had, I believe, 5 or 6 teams in the top 15 in defense. And, of course, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State were in there. But you got to also know that Rutgers was ranked really high on defense, and so was Minnesota. Minnesota typically has a really good defense. We didn't. You gotta look at the grand scheme. If you're playing some of the top defenses in the nation, which those teams were, that does affect your offensive production. And so the Big Ten, as much as people like to talk crap about it, the Big Ten had really good offensive production last year. So, and when you look at Ohio State's offense, sure, it was way down. But Michigan, actually, who won the national championship, as much as it hurts me to say that, they were number 69 in the country as far as offensive production. So they were way down there. So there were a lot more factors than just the offense that affects, the ability to win. All right, so now I want to shift to the defense. Our defense was really good last season. I believe it was ranked. I gotta look this up. I believe it was ranked actually like third in the country in total defense. We actually were second in scoring defense, which is interesting because we didn't get a lot of interceptions last season. So our interceptions were way down, but we were also preventing big plays from happening. And that by itself is important. So we were preventing big plays. We were second in scoring defense, and we were third in total defense. So what I'm seeing with this team, especially with Will Howard at quarterback, I'm seeing a team that's very rare in the fact we're going to have a top 5 defense. Now, I think it's going to be number 1 in the country by the end of the season, maybe from the get-go, number 1 in the country, and also a top 5 offense. Both of those factors, I don't know any team that's going to have that. Maybe Georgia, although I think Georgia is going to be a heavy defense-reliant team this year. We'll see. I mean, they have a really tough schedule, so I got to give them credit for that. Their schedule is really hard. So, I mean, them coming out unscathed is slim to none. But as far as our top defensive production, our top 2 defensive players last season were Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg. They had the best stats. They weren't the best linebackers, but they were consistent, and consistent is good. But I do believe that we're replacing Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers with really more talented, more athletic players in Cody Simon and Sonny Styles. And we do have a bit of an X factor coming in as far as our linebackers go. C.J. Hicks as well. So Sonny Styles, as you know, was a safety last season, and he's moving and transitioning to linebacker. So Sonny Styles is the X factor. I believe that you'll probably see a lot of C.J. Hicks and Cody Simon combinations with Sonny Styles coming in and out as he's learning the position. But I think that we can keep fresh legs. And, of course, we're hoping to see also Gabe Powers hit the field this year. Gabe Powers was a highly touted recruit when he came in. And so I'm really excited about seeing this combination of linebackers. And what I'm really, really excited about is the animal himself. Well, the animal's son, but, coming in and coaching our linebackers. That's a big deal. I mean, that's a huge upgrade in our linebacker coaching. And I got to say, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm a defense guy. I love great defense. 2018 through 2022 hurt my heart. 2019 being the outlier. But here's the thing. 2019 was one of the best teams I've ever seen. We came up short against Clemson, and we shouldn't have. But there's a lot of factors that go in that. But one thing I can say about 2019 versus this season is 2019, we didn't have the depth. And you can say whatever you want about our recruiting, but the depth was not there. As soon as, I forget which player was ejected, I'm sorry, forgive me. But as soon as one of our top defensive backs were ejected from that game, when he hit Lawrence, when he hit Lawrence, he was ejected. They went right at the middle of that field because we didn't have a replacement. That's different this year, and that's what I'm most excited about. This year, we have Jordan Hancock, who's probably the best third defensive back in the country. I mean, he's not really a third defensive back. He's going to be because of what we got in front of him, Igbinosun and Burke. But the dude is good, and he really showed through last year. So him coming in is going to be great. But when you add safety Caleb Downs, I believe you could say that Caleb Downs was the best freshman safety last season. And his stats were pretty good. He had 101 total tackles all last season. So he was really involved in everything. He had 70 solo tackles. He had 37 assists. He had 2 interceptions. And he didn't post a touchdown. But as a freshman, when you put that kind of production and you dominate that greatly, That's a really good sign because coaching comes into effect, and I mean there's no better coach. Nobody can argue that there's a better coach than Nick Saban. But if you're going to transition to another coach, a coach with only 8 losses since he took over in 2019, you got to say that's a really good sign. Plus, Jim Knowles being our defensive coach, he's really changed everything around defensively under Ryan Day. So Caleb Downs will be a huge impact player. In the spring game, you saw him taking on some of our best wide receivers, and he did a great job. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him in a Buckeye uniform with those shiny gray helmets, with our shiny gray helmets on the field. Caleb Downs is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. I can't wait. So in addition to our linebackers, I'm really looking forward to seeing him take the field. And in addition to that, we had record numbers of players come back to Ohio State. They should have declared for the NFL. You look at history, why wouldn't they? But yet they all came back. Why? They want to beat Michigan. They want a chance at a national title. They want those golden pants. They want the Big Ten trophy, and they definitely want the national championship trophy. So they're back, and so that would be we're going to see Tyleik Williams back, Jack Sawyer. Wait, are we going to see? I think we're going to see Tyleik Williams back. I forget. Defensive tackle. Sorry, my mind is drawing a blank. But yeah, we're going to see him. We're going to see JT Tuamolo, and Ty Hamilton is back. So our front line is going to be really good. What we want to see is how well Hero Kanu does. We're hoping that Kenyatta Jackson has a breakthrough year because last season he wasn't performing to the level that we felt comfortable keeping him in. But like Jack Sawyer, if you can look at a positive against Missouri, Jack Sawyer literally owned their offensive line. But he got tired in the fourth quarter, and that's what happens when you don't bring players in and out of the game, which we were lacking last season. But Jack Sawyer was a dominant player, a player that I'm quite proud of, and I really like seeing him back on the field in a Buckeye uniform is exciting stuff. So there's just a lot to be excited about on defense. Now on offense, I have maybe it's a hot take, but Emeka Egbuka had his worst season last year since he's been in the lineup, and my theory is that for all the things that Kyle McCord did, being the top quarterback in the Big Ten last season, statistically, I know people are going to say J.J. McCarthy was the best. Well, I mean, he has the title, so I have no argument there. But number of yards, Kyle McCord did have the best number in the Big Ten. Nobody can argue that. But what Kyle McCord lacked was the ability to see the field. It seems like the minute he snapped the ball, it was boom, let's go right to Harrison. And that's what he did. He did that way too much. So with Will Howard in there, I believe that more of our wide receivers are going to see production next season, or this season, starting this Saturday. I'm really excited. I know Jeremiah Smith. I will talk about him. But I'm really excited about Carnell Tate, okay, and Brandon Ennis. And, of course, Emeka Egbuka. Those three cause nightmares for defenses. And I just feel like last season Kyle McCord did not look for them enough. And that's why their numbers weren't really there. I don't think it's their ability to get open. I just think that our quarterback wasn't looking for them. I truly think that was the problem last season with our offensive production. Even though statistically our numbers were okay, they weren't obviously a top 58 offense is not what we have to be a top 10 offense this year. But, that's the difference between being ranked 48th on defense and being top 5. The ability to see the field. Now, you can say what you want. I keep hearing Michigan fans and other fans say, Will Howard, 57% completion rate. On the same token, you'll hear Michigan fans say, all we need is 57 to 65% completions and we win. So they're really just they're double talking, speaking out of two sides of their mouth. Ohio State can't have 57%. They need like 80%. Okay? Well, you got to think, okay? Now, first off, Kansas State did have a decent offense in the Big 12. They don't face the defenses we do, okay? But what Will Howard does not have on Kansas State that he has now is the wide receivers with the talent level. And without those wide receivers, now they were good. They weren't elite, okay? You can't argue with me that Kansas State had elite wide receivers. I am not going to hear it. Okay, Will Howard for the first time has elite wide receivers. Okay, and even without those elite wide receivers, he had 2,643 yards last season, 24 touchdowns with 10 interceptions, 75.1 quarterback ranking. Now, if you listen to Michigan fans, that sounds like enough for them, but for some reason it's not enough for us. But you got to also think Ryan Day, being a quarterback with experience, is going to coach him up. Those numbers should go up. We should see more yards, more touchdowns, less interceptions, because Ryan Day is all about smart decisions. But there's also one other factor people are forgetting. We have headsets in our helmets this year, which means he's going to be coached during the game too, as far as his decision making. So you got to keep these factors in mind. Will Howard has a chance to really shoot up in numbers this year. So, we don't know what we're going to see. Any Buckeye fan that says, oh, I know, okay, they're just being fans. And I can be the same way. I get it. I am the same way sometimes. But we don't know what we're going to see from Will Howard. But we just need somebody that makes smart decisions. We don't need him to be C.J. Stroud. He doesn't need to try to be C.J. Stroud. He just needs to be smart. And Kyle McCord had moments where he just didn't make smart decisions. There were a lot of good moments with Kyle McCord, no matter what you say. We were 11-0 going into the Michigan game. We were a couple of plays from winning the Michigan game. Our offensive line did better against Michigan than any team in the playoffs, and you can fight me on that, okay? Because I am telling you that this offensive line is going to be a strength this year. And a lot more experience. And guess what? People were laughing at us about Josh Simmons. He might have been our best offensive lineman last year. And he will only get better after an off-season of coaching. And so, that's what I have to say. We brought in Tim Hinton. We now have increased number of countable coaches, which is a rule change this offseason. So he's going to be involved with Justin Fry and offensive line coaching. What are our weaknesses? I believe tight ends are weakness. I don't even know which tight end's going to start. Could it be the guy that we brought in from the MAC school? He's supposed to be the best blocker on our team. Could it be Thurman? It should be Thurman. He was our highest ranked tight end that we brought in. But I can't tell you what we're going to see out of tight ends. I think that's our weakest position this year, which a good tight end does make a big difference. But if we just get enough production out of our tight end group, he's only one player on the field generally, especially in our modern offense. I'm not too worried about it. So I'm not going to focus too much on that. So let's talk about week 0. We got our first major upset in week 0. It's not, it's the first week, but we call it week 0. So that was the first, and I repeat, the first big upset of the season. We almost had another upset, but it's not quite on the level that would have been, that was. But Florida State, who's been complaining all off season about not getting the playoffs, they didn't come out and play the way you hoped. DJ Uiagalelei, you would expect to play better than he did. However, I don't feel like he was really making the mistakes that you could really point to that he cost them the game. It's just the offense looked like it was in slow motion. It couldn't get out of its own way. And that may be credit to the defensive front of Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech figures to be a physical team this year, which puts them in at least the game every game. So the first big upset is good. to see for most fans, except Florida State fans. Obviously, you're not happy, but us fans, we love a good upset. Okay, nobody wants their team to be the one, but when they see a big upset and it's not their team, everybody enjoys that. You got to admit it, Florida State fans. This is no slight to Florida State. I really have nothing at all against Florida State, but they were shafted. I don't care what anybody says. They should have been in the playoffs. I don't care about the results against Georgia. Half of their team, in fact, I think it was like 22 players weren't even playing. I mean, you can't really point to that game for much. It counts. I'm not saying it doesn't count, but there's nothing you can really point to in that game because nobody was starting. So that's I don't think Florida State's going to be a bad team, but if they play like they did against Georgia Tech, they look like a 3-4 loss team to me, and that's not going to get it done. So who's going to win the ACC? In my opinion, I don't know. Like, ACC is a mess, in my opinion. It's a huge mess. Like, I actually feel like Georgia Tech could win the conference. They shouldn't. They don't have the talent that a Clemson does. But they have a chance. NC State, maybe, but NC State never quite plays consistently enough to win a conference. The team that, and I always laugh about saying, Miami has player to player the most. Sorry. The dogs are going crazy on me.
Shut up.
Anyways, the ACC, I think Miami, player to player, has the most talent this season. I've said that before. My friend came in here while I'm streaming. Player to player, the ACC, I think Miami has the best talent. But has that really taken effect? Is their coaching effective enough for that to be, make a huge difference? I don't think so. I don't have any faith in Miami. I would trust Clemson more than Miami, even though Miami has greater talent. But they did have a really good offseason as far as bringing in players, recruiting, all of that. But I can't say Miami is a team that I trust. But that's what I'm leaning towards for this season. They've never won the ACC, so this could be their year. As far as the SEC goes, I think Georgia clearly is the best team. I don't think Georgia is quite to the level that they were in 2021, 2022. I think they're kind of like Mark Richt level talent. They still have Kirby Smart coaching, though, so that ends up with better results than Mark Richt, in my opinion. But I just, their quarterback, I think he's fine, but he did statistically look great last year. I think the SEC defenses were way down from what they used to be. So I didn't see really great defenses except for maybe Alabama last year and Georgia. That's about it. Missouri's was okay. Of course, we made Missouri's defense look good when we said, let's take out our center who makes all the play adjustments, and let's put in our guard at center who has no clue how to make play adjustments. And so we made Missouri's defense look way better than it was. And then, Devin Brown didn't even finish the game, unfortunately, and that has a lot to do with bringing in backup offensive linemen. And I mean no ill will to Enoch Vermahi, but he just doesn't have what it takes to play Ohio State level. So him transferring makes a lot of sense for him. He'll probably have greater success somewhere else. The level of athlete that we play is way higher than what he could handle. And there's no shame in that. I couldn't even make a fifth team. So there's no shame in that. But when you're an Ohio State player, there's a certain expectation. Enoch Vermahi gave up way too much whenever he was in, and it really showed against Missouri. I don't even know why I would rather bring in a guy like Tigra than have Vermahi out there. Like, Tigra is supposed to be really good, just hasn't had his shot yet. So, bring in Tigra, bring in Luke Montgomery, even if he's out of position. Anything would have been better. But that being said, I think Georgia is clearly the favorite. I think Alabama They might be good offensively because DeBoer is a good offensive coach, but defensively, they're going to take a huge step back. They do have the athletes, but remember, it's more than just the athletes. Look at Ohio State in 2021. Athletes, we should have been a top 10 defense, but we didn't have the defensive coaching, and that makes a difference. That's what I keep telling Michigan. It makes a difference. Just because you have the athletes doesn't mean it takes shape on the field. Excuse me. Excuse my voice. And so we don't know what we're going to see, but I do think we'll learn a lot about Alabama when they play Wisconsin. So I'm looking forward to that game in a few weeks. And not only this weekend do we have Ohio State taking the field, but next weekend we get what I think will be Michigan's first loss, Texas. I think that's next week. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look up the schedule, but I think Michigan plays Texas next week. I think it's week 2 versus Texas. Let me see what the date is. Yeah, next Saturday. Not this Saturday, next Saturday. So Michigan's first loss will be on September 7th at 12 p.m. Well, by 3 p.m. So I'm looking forward to that. Ohio State will be 5-0 before they play Oregon. Everybody, and I repeat, everybody under the sun is picking Oregon to beat us. I don't know why. This is my opinion. This is a hot take. Nobody agrees with me, it seems, but Oregon is the most overrated team in the country this year. Overrated. They are getting way too much attention that they don't deserve. What did they do last season? They lost to Washington, who didn't know what the word gap sound meant. Their defensive presence on the front line is absolutely terrible. So how did they get to the championship? I don't know. Like, the one thing that you can beat Texas with is the passing game, and that's what it was, because it certainly wasn't their defense. As a matter of fact, Texas almost came back and won that game, which they should have. So, like, no defensive presence, and they lost twice to that team. Give me a break. Why are we giving so much attention to Oregon? I want to know, media. Tell me. What has Oregon ever done that makes you think they're going to beat us this year? And you can point to 2021. Oh, Oregon beat you up. Okay, I'll give it to you. We had the worst defensive coach ever in the history of Ohio State football, and Kerry Coombs, for all that he did in the 2014 national championship season, he was not ready for the task. He was terrible at being a defensive coach. The defensive coach that we named. So Kerry Coombs is the reason I have never seen a team march out with like constant, like full team replacements coming in and out of the game. It's like 10 players go off the field, 10 players come on at once. He had no clue what he was doing, okay? So Oregon can point to that game all they want, but Kerry Coombs is not walking out of that locker room coaching our defense. This is Jim Knowles. This is a whole different level. Sure, we had probably a better offense in 2021, but, top 5 offense this year with probably the top defense in the country. No, Oregon, you're not beating us. I don't care what the experts say. I will speak that, and I will come on camera and apologize if I'm wrong, because Oregon is not to our level. I don't even think they're the 3rd best team in our conference. I don't care what the experts say. That's what I'm saying, and you can point and laugh if I'm wrong. But Oregon is getting way too much attention, giving way too much credit. They've never done anything in the history of their football team, so I'm not giving them credit. I mean, they have to earn it with me, okay? So Oregon, no, you're not going to come in and beat us this year. Ohio State is going undefeated this season. We're going to beat Michigan. We're going to beat Oregon. We're going to beat Penn State. Those are probably the best teams in our conference. Michigan might not be. We'll see. It might actually be Rutgers, especially with their schedule. But, yeah, Oregon, you're not defeating us this year. I don't care what the experts say. Ohio State is the best team in the Big Ten this year, and the only thing they have to do is put it together on the field. Guys, that's really all I have to say. I'm looking forward to our kickoff. I would be shocked if we score anything less than 70 points on Akron. I think even our second team can score on Akron. That game's not going to tell us anything, but it will be our Buckeyes in uniform on the field this Saturday, and I really greatly appreciate it. Seeing football come back, every Buckeye fan is just excited. What we did this offseason was amazing. We brought in a lot of great players. Our recruiting was off the charts. Our biggest weakness is offensive line recruiting, and I don't know. Look, I'm not a salesman, but I can sell Ohio State to any offensive lineman. What's going on, Justin Fry? Like, get it together, buddy. I mean, we have everything we need. We have the foundations that will help fund our players now that the rules have changed. We have everything. What are you doing, Justin Fry? What are you doing? Like, how do we lose that many top recruits? How do we lose to schools like Tennessee? Huh? Explain that to me. I want some answers. I could sell Ohio State to a player. Anybody could sell them. But Justin Fry can't? Come on. Get it together, Justin Fry. We have a lot of expectations for you this year. And, like I said, I couldn't coach anything. I'm just talking from a Buckeye fan perspective. I'm not trying to slight anybody. But Justin Fry, man, you got to get it together. We have high expectations. Now, that won't affect this season, but it could affect the next, 2 seasons away greatly. So we got to get it together, and next season we got to have the best offensive line recruiting we've had in a long time. Okay, rant over. Ohio State is going to be great this year. They're a top 5 team easily, maybe the best team. Right now, Georgia's where they belong at number 1. They've earned it, even though they didn't go to the playoffs last year. They were right there. They, a couple plays away from beating Alabama. They didn't. So, I mean, Georgia's kind of in the same boat we are. A lot to see this year, a lot of expectations. But the way it shakes up, I think Ohio State will be the best team in the country this year. I think Michigan is a 3 or 4 loss team. I don't see them making the playoffs. I think coaching is a huge deal, and people are underestimating that. So those are my thoughts. I picked the SEC team. I didn't pick the Big 12 team. It's like you just toss a coin in the air and someone wins the Big 12. Like Texas and Oklahoma are gone. Maybe Oklahoma State. They're good enough. They actually caught fire after losing several games last year. So I could see Oklahoma State winning it. I think Kansas State probably takes a step back. They might be good enough. Who else? I think those are TCU is, maybe they'll be better this year, but they're not going to win it. I don't think, anyways. I'd be shocked if they did. Let's just put it that way. So I'm going to say Oklahoma State wins the Big 12. Maybe. I'm not confident in that. But, that's what it kind of points to. So those are my picks. Oklahoma State, Ohio State Big 10. Georgia is the obvious choice. I mean, I don't know who else would beat Georgia. Maybe Texas. That would be cool to see. Texas go in the SEC and win it. Everybody but SEC fans would love to see that. And ACC, I think I'm leaning towards Miami. It sounds crazy. They get hype every offseason and then prove us wrong. So they could prove me wrong. It could be Clemson. It's not going to be Florida State. Sorry, guys. Miami or Clemson, probably. I don't think Clemson gets it done, though. They're just kind of like an average team. Clemson has turned into an average team because their assistants aren't to the level that they used to be. So those are my picks. Ohio State, I'm looking forward to seeing you take the field, even though it's just Akron. And I just got to say this. Go Buckeyes! Thank you for tuning in. I'll keep working on my technical issues. Thank you. Bye.